It's not who gets in the first word that counts, but who gets in the last word. Now, the guys that always get in the last word, brothers Tom and Dave.
You come in here with a skull full of mush, and if you survive, you leave thinking like a lawyer.
Well, welcome to the May 6th edition of The Last Word, and we hope that when we're finished today and you do leave, you will leave thinking like a lawyer.
Especially after our guest today, Big Brother Tom, here with little Brother Dave.
We're going to be having the guy I refer to as Dandy Don Ramsell.
Some of you may have heard of him as DUI Don.
DUI Don, a premier driving under the influence attorney.
But he's not a drunk driving attorney. He's an attorney who defends.
That's right. As opposed to a Lincoln lawyer. I thought the Lincoln lawyer had something to do with somebody defending John Wilkes Booth or whatever. Little did I know the Lincoln lawyer referred to the guy whose office was his Lincoln. Okay.
That's why when I go to a restaurant and I say, would you like a table or a booth? I always say, no, I don't want to make the mistake Lincoln had made when he went to Fort Theater and he asked for a booth.
Anyway, we need to begin your week with a little bit of a chuckle. And since no group or segment of the population is sacrosanct, today our targeted group is Chinese. And we are talking to you about the wedding of the Wongs. Now, Sue Wong, no relation, married Li Wong. The next year, the Wongs had a new baby, and the nurse brought over a lovely, healthy, bouncy, but definitely Caucasian white baby boy. Congratulations, said the nurse to the new parents. Well, Mr. Wong, what will you and Mrs. Wong name the baby? The puzzled father looked at his new baby boy and said, well, two Wongs don't make a white. So I think we'll name him Something Wong. Okay, now that we don't have to have the Asians listening to us for the rest of the show.
Because I don't want to make my comment about the fact that, I don't know why there's such prejudice in this country against euthanasia. I think any euthanasia, it should be allowed to grow up just like everybody else. That's right. I don't know why we're against euthanasia.
Now, we've always been talking but seriously though, folks.
All right.
On a more serious note. We've got problems with oil and gas, and this is a word from Garfield on the oil crisis. Just a lot of folks can't understand how we came to have an oil shortage here in our country. Well, there's a very simple answer. Nobody bothered to check the oil. We didn't know we were getting low, and the reason for that is purely geographical. Our oil is located in Alaska, California, coastal Florida, coastal Louisiana, Wyoming, Utah, Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Pennsylvania. The problem is that our dipsticks are located in Washington, D.C. Any questions? Didn't think so. Now,
any comments, any criticisms to the last word at
yahoo.com. Now, our shameless tease segment of Mind Trap before we get to Dandy Don. A black dog stands in the middle of an intersection in a town painted black. None of the street's lights are working because of a power failure caused by a local storm. A car with two broken headlights drives towards the dog but turns in time to avoid hitting him. How could the driver have seen the dog in time? We'll let you know sometime during the course of the show and tease you to stay with us.
That is good, Tom. That is very good. Well, you know what? I still want to go back a little bit to the Asian thing over here. While we're waiting to get Dandy Don on the line over here. I'd like. No,
I tell you what we can do. Debbie's working really well at it. Why don't we start giving Don an intro before he gets here? No, he's here with us.
We are here with us. Hello, Don.
Hello, Tom and Dave.
Hey, how are you?
I'd like to introduce to our listeners the premier, as we said, not drunk driving attorney, but an attorney who defends drunk drivers.
I like that better because if you say he's a drunk driving attorney, people think I'm both.
That's right. That's right.
So we have on the line Don Ramsell of Don Ramsell Associates. Tom and I have known Don. We've gone back, almost, I hate to say it, Don, but almost 30 years now.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah,
I knew you when you were officing in Schaumburg.
yeah, that is true.
And you and Kevin and I went down to that seminar in
Orlando,
Florida.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That, I think, was probably the very beginnings of me getting extremely serious about this area of the law and concentrating on this area.
And let me just say for our listeners that neither Don nor us nor anybody supports drunk driving. Don, as much as there's an old saying that who are the people who are most against war are probably the generals and the people who have to conduct it, because they know what can cause it to happen. And Don knows so much about DUI. He is not supporting the idea that people should be allowed to get away with drunk driving. What Don is saying and what Don does in his specialty is to make sure that if there's a drunk driver out there, the real drunk drivers are the ones convicted, and that people, according to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, get their day in court.
Yeah.
And that they are proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in accordance with the rules and regulations of the state.
Well said, Dave. Well said.
And we just talk about somebody who knows the rules and regs.
That's their man right here.
There are, Don, there's a place called the ARC. It's the Attorney Resource Center in the courthouse, and you see Don every now and then between cases.
Have you ever signed any covenants in the ARC?
No.
Just contracts?
And you can watch Don in court, or you can have a cup of coffee with him, and just you should get CLE credit for being able to sit in the ARC with Don. Don even got me certified as a
breathalyzer.
A field sobriety test.
Yeah.
Man.
Yes, you are certified in field sobriety testing, just like a police officer. You took the identical National Highway Traffic Safety Administration course.
Yeah, he put on his mitre, and he put on his mitre and held his cross and put his hands on his.
Enough of this Dave foolery. We one of the things we wanted to get into. I know it's a big bugaboo with you, Don, and it is with me. Camcorders in squad cars.
Yes, in-squad video cameras. Essentially, a lot of people, and I'm just going to kind of start going and discussing if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And my first point that I wanted to make was that most citizens believe that every squad car has an in-squad video camera, and most citizens believe that the law requires that every squad car have an in-squad video camera, and that is, in fact, that would be false. The reality is that most squad cars don't have a video camera, and there is no law that requires police officers to have an in-squad video camera, except one tiny little statute in Illinois that mandates that the Illinois State Police have to have an in-squad video camera in their vehicles when they're performing traffic enforcement. But all the cities and towns and counties outside of the Illinois State Police, none of them are required to have cameras.
But yeah, we can spend millions of dollars to put cameras up to catch people at red lights.
Well, that's kind of funny, Dave, and that is the reality of it, which is sad. What is most interesting, too, is that in Illinois, the legislature actually passed a law 5, 6, 7 years ago that imposes a fine on every person that's arrested and found guilty of DUI. They have to pay in an amount of $500 to $1,000 each person, and that money is given to the municipality for the specific purpose of purchasing in-squad cameras. But many departments don't use the money for which it was intended. Good example, Naperville, Illinois.
Here. My home, Naperville, my hometown.
Naperville, Illinois is frequently at one of the top towns when the statistics roll out every year for making DUI arrests in the state. So the amount of money they have collected off of convicted drunk drivers would be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars just for the purpose of technology, including in-squad cameras. Now, they get millions of dollars on top of that from the additional fines, but there's an actual charge.
Okay, Don, we're going to have to ask you to hold your thought because we're coming up on the break and continue a heart rate coming here on the other side of the next break on The Last Word with Don Ramsell.
Now, back to the show with the brothers that always have the last word, Tom and Dave.
Yes, we're back here with Don Ramsell, one of the premier, if not the premier, DUI defense attorney in Illinois. And I'd like to point out that if you are having trouble in this area or any area actually dealing with criminal matters, you can call Ramsell and Associates, and their website is www.dialdui.com.
Or you could do 800-DIAL-DUI.
You could do 1-800-DIAL-DUI or 1-888-FELONY-1. And get in touch with Don and his excellent crew at his place. Let's see, you are right now at 128 South County Farm Road in Wheaton.
That's correct, although we do
have others
everywhere. So.
Well, there's a whole list, and without going through them all, you have a list of various other municipalities that you have offices and places of representation.
Yes, we'll go where they need us.
That's the way. Attaboy.
That's right.
You get an attaboy from us for that one time.
So, we were talking about Naperville and the millions of dollars they get for squad car camcorders, but they don't use them for that.
Yes, and that's it's very disappointing that that town doesn't, and that's the most glaring example that I know, because for the cases where we do have in-squad video, it's a wonderful device for everyone that's involved. Number one, having an in-squad video camera helps protect police officers, because if they're going to be accused of wrongdoing, that video camera is going to back them up and show that they didn't do anything wrong. Or for their own safety, if somebody were to try to, do something to a police officer, and unfortunately sometimes they're hit by cars passing, etc. That camera's going to catch those people.
Like you see on Cops or
World's Wildest Police Videos. I think it shows how wonderful it is and what it does. I mean, you're right. It's caught people. I know an officer would walk up to the car. One almost got shot, point blank range.
Yes.
And that catches it right there.
But it also takes out the, ladies and gentlemen, who are we going to believe? The officer with the short haircut, shiny badge, and creased pants, or the defendant?
You know what? It cuts right to the chase, to use a pun, if you will, because it will show all the bad driving that a defendant committed, if true, or it will show that the officer's version of events is not accurate. And I can just give you an example today. We get these videos. Many of the municipalities do employ the cameras because they find the benefit of them is just as described. We had a client come in here, and this person was very insistent that the thing happened a certain way and that they were, they didn't do anything wrong, etc. So they were here and they watched their video of what happened at the scene, how they did on certain field sobriety tests and spoke and everything like that. And it took about maybe 15 minutes to view it. And by the time they were finished viewing it, the discussion went from having a trial to how can we try and
minimize my hurt
down. I'm going to plead guilty now. The person realized, it was right there.
Yeah. Was that you or your evil twin brother?
Right.
Your doppelganger.
Yeah, so it can be a pretty sobering moment when somebody watches the video of them and sees that, how they were behaving if they had too much to drink.
And that's an interesting point, because I'm sure that what we have over here is a person who has legitimately had too much to drink and broke the law. They are going to, because of their lack of sobriety, they are going to actually have a different memory of what occurred. So you can go on and you can go on and say, there it is. So it cuts both ways. It's not that we are claiming that this should be a tool to get defendants, drunk drivers off the hook. We are claiming that this is an objective tool to establish the truly guilty and separate the wheat from the chaff, separate the truly guilty from the truly innocent.
Yes, I mean, because even officers, they're human, and they sometimes also remember things in a manner that might be more favorable to their side of what occurred, and the mind can do that to a person. So cameras are they are the disinterested observer, and it's such a great technology for everyone. It should be the law in Illinois that there is a video camera in every squad car. It's sad that we took all the money that people were charged, and towns diverted that money, when they had it, and now there's a budget problem, and so the money could have been used when it was there.
Could I suggest you might want to contact Representative Elaine Niekritz of Northbrook, because Representative Niekritz is reshaping the legislation that would allow citizens to make audio recordings of on-duty police.
Believe it or not, and that is a wonderful idea, I would suggest that every person who has an interest in preserving the truth and protecting all of us, the officers included, should contact their legislators for this purpose. And the Illinois State Bar Association Traffic Law and Court Section Council is the name of the actual committee, has sent a proposal to the people in the Senate and in the House that are pushing amendments through about videotaping by citizens or police, and trying to get this all locked into one bill.
Well, Don, do you find that there has what arguments against this have you seen put forth by law enforcement agencies? Even the ones that can make you laugh.
Only cost. Because there is a cost to it. Now, it's funny because I just had this conversation with another person, and my humor sometimes isn't as well received. But I did point out, it's kind of like the you can buy a toilet at the Home Depot. It's like $89, but when you put a toilet on the space shuttle, suddenly everybody charges like $89,000. It's the same toilet, and the same with these cameras. You can get one at Best Buy for $200.
Yes.
But if you put it in the squad car, somebody's brother-in-law charges $5,000. So be it. So there is a cost, and some of it is inflated, in my opinion. And then there's the maintenance. You have to download it. It's so hard, I guess. Not really.
Well, that's an initial.
I saw that bulge. Was that your tongue in your cheek there?
Yeah.
It's
initial investment.
I mean,
Don,
how hard is it to operate a camera?
Yeah, anybody can do it today. I mean,
right.
It's so simple. Don, get in my DeLorean with me and go into the future with me about 5 years or so, maybe 5, 7, 10 years. Do you foresee a time where technology would allow for policemen to actually have something on their bodies? I mean, we've already got cameras that are so small.
Oh, absolutely.
That let's not just talk about recording from a DUI scene. Let's talk about when the police step away from the car, that they will be able to record anything they do. Once they get a call, once they step out of the police car, click, turn the little switch on your camcorder on your visor or wherever they can pin it, and you would. I think this would just go such a long way to helping those who are guilty see they are guilty, and helping the innocent, helping the system see they are innocent.
Absolutely. And the technology is already readily available, Dave, so you're just goading me into saying something that we all know to be true. They have these little cameras that,
Right.
bicyclists put them on their helmets,
Right.
and skiers and, athletes like to wear them, and, you see them employed in a variety of situations. So they could easily have a portable camera right there on their visor or on their hat or their vest. It's really not that difficult.
Fantastic.
Actually, interesting enough, there are cameras that there are systems out there. This gets really scary when you talk about cameras in police units. You can see this on YouTube. They have cameras, systems that you can put on squad cars. They use it in Canada, and some other states have them, where there's a camera angle of about 8 surrounding the entire car, and they drive through. They can drive through parking lots and scan license plates.
Jeez.
Donnie, can you hang with us until after the news break?
Certainly.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd like to have you on for one more, and maybe you can give our listeners also an update on some of the new laws that have come into effect, this year, as there always are want to be with DUIs. So after the news, weather, sports, and everything else, we'll be back with Tom Dave and Don Ramsell at The Last Word.
They're lawyers, so you know they'll always have the last word. Here's Tom and Dave.
Welcome back with the premier defense attorney, one of our premier defense attorneys from the state of Illinois, Don Ramsell of Don Ramsell and Associates. We've been talking about DUIs and videos and police cars and why they should be there. And we're also talking about even putting videos on policemen now.
Mm-hmm.
And why they're so good to be there.
One of the things, though, is, Don, you used to have a card that you would give to clients as to how to conduct themselves in a potential DUI stop.
That's how people referred to it, as kind of a card for DUI stops. But more or less, it was a card as to what a person's rights are under all circumstances involving their operation of a vehicle. And it was essentially just reminding people that they have the right not to participate in an investigation of themselves for possible crime. And what I mean by that is you don't have to answer questions about where you've been and where you are going. We don't. That's if they ask the question, you can politely decline. You don't have to do field sobriety tests out on the street and stand there and, on one leg or walk. You can politely decline. The public thinks that this is, that they're obliged to do that or that there's some penalty for that.
Well, you're standing there with a police officer with a gun and all that authority.
Well, and
when he says, do this.
Step out of the car, please. The please
right
isn't
there.
a real please.
It's step out of the car.
Well, you have to get out of the car. There's a United States Supreme Court case that says every person has to exit for the safety of the officer, and that's a minimal intrusion.
Sure, but what happens, Don, is that starts off, and it's proper, it's a good law, but it starts off in the mind of every about stepping out of the car?
Because he's going to make observations about how you get out.
Oh, I see, Tom. Yeah,
your alternative is your failure to do that is going to result in you being arrested for obstructing a police officer.
Right.
And that's where the idea also comes in, that you have to do everything an officer tells you, or else you could be charged with obstruction of justice, which is not true.
Obstructing a police officer.
Obstructing a police officer. Thank you.
Yes, and once you're outside of the car, you can just give me your license and quietly let the officer go about his business. But you don't need to answer any questions, and you don't need to prove that you didn't do something or that prove you're innocent of something, even a DUI. There are a lot of people that say, "Well, why shouldn't I do that?" Well, go ahead, as long as you know what you have a choice in the matter. I'm simply letting people know they have a choice.
And one of the things is, there's a thing called a PBT, a portable or preliminary breath testing unit that the police have in their squad cars. That is not the breath testing device referred to in the statute.
Yes, and there's multiple issues there. Number one, again, no one is required to blow in a breathalyzer at the scene. Never. Number two, they are considered so unreliable that they cannot be introduced to prove someone guilty of a crime. The police only use these devices to decide whether to arrest somebody or not, but they're so unreliable even the courts won't let them be used to prove actual guilt.
But a policeman will never say, would you do these things even though you don't have to, so I could make a subjective determination of all of this?
Yeah.
They don't use that technique.
No, not at all.
They hold it up into a person's mouth and say, okay, now blow into this.
That's it. Yeah, and that's what they do.
They don't make it sound like there's a choice in the matter, so you need to know your rights and know what are your choices, and unfortunately, you have to basically exercise them yourself. You got to be, and that's a tough thing to do.
Oh, no question. You're out there wondering if you're going into the black hole of Calcutta if you look sideways at them.
Well, and people are like, people say to me frequently, why wouldn't I blow into it if I've done nothing wrong?
Ah, yes.
Well,
yes.
because those are inaccurate devices. They can have false positives. They can even have not just a false positive, but just a wrong measurement. We have people that blow .20 in a portable breathalyzer test and go back to the police station and blow .04, half, under the legal limit by half, because the devices are inaccurate, they're not well kept, and frequently the police officers don't even follow the recommended procedures on how to use the device.
So, the idea behind it, ladies and gentlemen, is that, yes, the police...
Nobody wants drunk drivers on the road because they're a danger to you, they're a danger to me, and I don't want to have to tell somebody was killed because of a drunk driver. But you shouldn't have to worry about soiling your pants if you had one drink during the course of dinner because the policeman's going to turk you over.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. When I stand up in front of a jury, I frequently say, drunk driving is a bad thing. We all agree. That's a terrible thing. But you know what else is terrible? Somebody being wrongfully convicted of drunk driving.
And that's what
we're talking about. And that's the whole purpose. The whole purpose is that. And believe me, people who rail against this, if something happens to you, the first person you run to in a situation like this is a lawyer.
That's right.
Don, we love having you on, and we will, of course, have you on again in the future. And you take care, and you keep being out there and fight the good fight.
Tom and Dave, you guys are great.
Thanks, Donnie.
Thanks, Donnie.
Didn't get enough of your family for the holidays? Here's two brothers you can always count on for the last word. Tom and Dave.
Well, if you didn't learn anything from the last half hour plus, hopefully the thing you did come away with is you do have rights in a DUI case.
Well, any traffic stop case.
And just because the policeman tells you got to do or you don't have to. But you don't know that until you check it out ahead of time. And unfortunately, most of the time that you learn what your rights are is after the stop.
Yeah.
And after you're charged, and after you're in Don's office or my office, and then you're finding out what you could have, should have, would have done after the fact. And I would venture to say if Don were to conduct or anybody were to conduct a storefront class on DUI law, telling you what you can and can't do, Mad would be there, Sad would be there, because you're not doing nothing but teaching people how to drive drunk and get away with it. That's what you're doing. That's what the picketers would be out there saying. Nobody would be saying, gee, you're teaching people the law.
Yeah, that's the idea behind taking your mind to mush.
That's right. That's one of the things we try to do.
Think like lawyers.
We want you to think like lawyers. Speaking of thinking like lawyers, we're going to think outside the box, and we're going to give you the mind trap question and answer.
Answer.
A black dog stands in the middle of an intersection in a town painted black. None of the streetlights are on due to a working power failure caused by a local power storm. A car with 2 broken headlights drives towards the dog but turns in time to avoid hitting him. How could the driver have seen the dog on time? It's very simple. Luckily for the dog, it was daylight. Those of you who thought it was dark and nighttime, you fell into the mind trap. No.
It's so simple, too.
People, all you listeners out there, or if you know somebody who has a foot fetish, they have until about probably 4 or 4:30 today to do something about it, because the big statue of Marilyn Monroe on Pioneer Court, they're taking it away on Monday. So if you got something to do with feet or toes or nails or things, you better hurry up and get over to Pioneer Court before Marilyn disappears.
I call it a fetish.
And
A fetish about a foot is a fetish. Makes sense.
And if you still have last Thursday's paper, not last Wednesday's paper, if it hasn't gone in a recycling bin, there's a big picture of people standing under Marilyn Monroe, and when you stand under Marilyn Monroe, you come up just under her knee. And I think it would be a great picture if you had 3 acrobats standing on their shoulders.
Terrible.
Because those of you who know what I'm talking about, it's this picture of Marilyn Monroe from Something Like a Hat? No, not Something Like a Hat. Where she was walking over some subway vent and it blew her dress way up. So the question is it less creepy to look up Marilyn Monroe's dress even though she's only a statue?
Well, I see there's a statue of Marilyn. Anybody ever built the statute of limitations or the statute of frauds?
You wouldn't get that. Speaking of frauds,
Yes.
how's about our recent mayor and his aide with the way that they jockeyed around to get their pensions?
Well, they did it legally, Tom. The question is
I understand.
The question
they did
is
it
why
legally.
is it legal in the first place? Is that not the question?
I would suppose you'd have to ask the emperor.
Oh, yeah, he was there. He was there when it took place.
Mm-hmm.
Way back in 92?
Yeah, and Daley's aide. Daley's aide is or was Degnan, Mr. Degnan, and he was when he was Daley's aide. Tim Degnan. Mm-hmm. When Daley got his Social Security number wrong on a form he filled out, Degnan pointed it out. Degnan's pension switch allowed him to land a state pension based on his city salary, which was $103,000 when he retired in '95. His salary as a state legislator was $28,000. State law allowed to transfer city and county credits to GARS for only $6,800 additional pension. So he saved $157,000, not having to contribute that amount. Degnan now gets $115,516 from the state pension, thanks to 3% annual increases, which is more than 4 times what he made when he was a state senator, making $28,000. Daley is getting about 300 and something, and he did not have to pay $400,000 into the pot in order to make up for the difference. So again, our pensions problems, they're done by the legislators. And now, of course, it's, we need to cut things, or we don't want to cut things, but we need more money.
Correct. But this goes back to the fact of how this occurred, Tom. This occurred in the time when we weren't worried that pension crisis or that money crisis was somewhere way in the future, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we'll face it when the time comes.
If and when we ever
have to do it. And we are at the day of reckoning. Mm-hmm. And we are at the day of reckoning because of situations like this.
Yes,
that allow for this to go.
We're going to talk more about that in our last segment.
Talk more about what?
Pensions and money and things of that nature.
Yeah, don't forget the situation in China.
Oh,
with the blind
that's right.
Chinese
We have to
gentleman.
talk about
Yes,
the
we do have
Chinese
to
man.
talk about that.
You're going to get a
you're
kick
gonna
out of
love
that.
about this
Stay
one.
with us.
We
We'll
have
be
our
right
own
back.
unique spin on that one here at The Last Word with Tom and Dave, WIND, your place for intelligent talk and intelligent brothers.
Now, back to the show with the brothers that always have the last word, Tom and Dave.
Well, welcome back here. Tom and Dave on The Last Word. Sorry I cut you off, bro.
No, that's okay. You know, because my kids are in the military, they get this paper sent to the house. It's called Army Times. And there's a spot in there where Hamid Karzai was condemning U.S. troops as demons. And he's walking as the president. He's walking under a line where he doesn't want to alienate us and he doesn't want to alienate the Taliban. So he's stuck between Taliban demons and American demons. And I'm really getting to the point where I'm going to say, fine, the American demons will leave. Well, we're happy to leave. I'm just.
And your son was there for a year.
Yeah, he was.
And your son-in-law.
That's right. But I'm still getting to the point where I think you have to define the issues. But that's for another show. We'll talk about defining the mission and cutting the military and things like that. One of the things we need to talk about is the problem that Hillary Clinton is facing, because she's supposed to be meeting with the president of China?
Yeah, I think who?
Yeah, the president of China.
Who?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
The president of China. The president of China is who?
That's right. Okay. So the problem that we have is there's this blind Chinese dissident who has sought asylum in the United States Embassy. And the question, I guess, is it's a little, you get the towel and you wipe the egg off your face if you're Hillary, because you got to worry about what's going to happen.
Well, they said there's three things. We can grant him the asylum and try to get him out and get him into the United States.
Yeah.
He can at least stay in the embassy for God knows how long. I think they said that Cardinal Wyszynski stayed in Wyszynski stayed in the embassy for 15 years. I think in
Poland.
In Poland or in Poland, and or you just
but you got a question, Dave.
You turn him back out.
But if you turn him back out of the embassy, who's going to take care of him?
And he certainly will.
No. I'm trying to find out what's going to happen to the guy if he leaves the embassy. There isn't going to be anybody to help him.
Well, knowing the Chinese people, who's going to take care of him?
That's what I'm asking. Who's going to take care of him?
And I'm answering you. Who's going to take care of him? That's the answer.
Who?
Right.
No. Right. So Wright's going to take care of him?
No. Who's going to take care of him?
That's what I asked.
But that's what I'm answering. Who's going to take care of him? That's the answer. It's not a question anymore.
No.
Who's going to take care of him?
We got a guy in the American embassy.
Right.
He's blind. And
he's on crutches too, you know.
And if we let him out, he can't take care of himself.
Well, he might be able to, but
who's going to take care of him?
And you are exactly right. It will happen. Who will take care of him?
That's what I'm
the problem is. The problem is, how is who going to take care of him? So now we have a question not only.
Well, I don't even know who's going to take care of him, let alone how.
Well, who's going to take care of him? But we have to worry about who's going to take care of him. Who will do it? But the question is how will who do it?
So he gets out of the embassy.
Yeah.
And who's going to take care of him?
Absolutely.
Okay. So absolutely is going to take care of the guy who comes out of the embassy.
No. I don't know what's wrong with you, Tom. You're supposed to be older and smarter than me, and I keep telling you that who's going to take care of him?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
And I keep giving you the answer.
What answer?
The president of China.
Who?
Right.
But when I said Wright was going to take care of him, you said I was wrong.
No, the president of China is who?
Right?
No, who?
Oh. So who's going to take care of the guy when he gets out of the asylum?
That's right. And who's the president of China? Oh. Yes, Tom, the last name of the president of China is who?
If I knew that, I wouldn't ask the question.
No, that's the point. The last name of the president of China is who?
Well,
now, we could go on with this. We could go on with this forever.
No kidding. But we're running out of time. Thank you all for listening. Join us on May 10th when we'll have some more of the Laz Word on
WIND, your place for intelligent talk. And we may find out who is who.